So we spoke about this a little bit on Friday anyway, because I know Chris, you were asking like location of time period of the story and all that kind of stuff with the lottery, and I double checked over the weekend into her views about what she was, I don't want to say trying to accomplish, but so far as setting and whatnot. The story gets published, and you have the date at the top of the packet. The story gets published in 1948 in the New Yorker, which is a pretty big literary magazine. It gets destroyed so far as like criticism and fan mail. She gets something like 300 letters to her like within the first week, and she's of those 300, she said 13 of them were positive. The other, and 300 is an estimate because she stopped reading them after a while because they were basically attacking her. How could you write such a thing? She even goes on record, her parents wrote her a letter that they are disappointed as to why she couldn't write something more cheery. But why does the present population, the current younger population, have to be so negative about the world around them and all that kind of stuff? She grows up in Vermont, and she basically, says, I was thinking about my town when I was writing this. Not that her town had lotteries of this nature, but it would be, 1948 or sometime within that present. So in some ways you might read it and kind of go, boy, this seems like it's pretty old-fashioned, and certainly stonings wouldn't be anything that would be common anymore in the United States, but she is thinking of it as being present day. One of the interesting things, I guess, for 11th grade, if you had an honors American Lit, or I think American Lit did it, the Crucible, play, Salem witch trials, which would be taking place in New England. So that area, that section, that geographical location, you do sometimes maybe kind of think of unfair judgments taking place. I don't know if anyone, kind of made that connection, but who ultimately gets stoned? You have Tessie. Emily, you remember Tessie's last name? Hutchinson. New England history, Hutchinson mean anything to anybody? David, did you nod?
Yeah. There was I don't know her first name, but she said something that wasn't
Isn't it Anne?
It's Anne, yeah.
Okay.
It's Massachusetts. I forget the exact year. It's like 1638 or something like that. Anne Hutchinson is banished from Massachusetts, exiled because she's going against community and whatnot. They threatened to burn her at the stake, or not burn her at the stake, hang her at the gallows and things like that. But yeah, there's a little bit of illusion that could take place that she is somebody who maybe speaks out. And certainly, what does Tessie do? She speaks out. I always love reading the paragraph that folks are writing on the back of the value sheet. 10 sentences. What do you think? Majority of folks, what do you think? Moral or immoral?
Immoral.
The vast majority were going immoral. We might have had 2 or 3 people who said, yeah, I guess it's justifiable. They were not going, I would like to partake in it. And I think you even went on record as saying not justifiable. I believe. So there, it can happen. But majority of people are certainly going not justifiable. I always get interested though when people go, I really don't, I'm not saying we're judging you by any means, I could never partake in such an event. Perfectly fine, understand. I would like to think that I would never partake in such an event. You got an E on that essay, stoned to death you must be. Come up here and stand, JT, we will throw stuff at you. But it'd be interesting to see if you got placed in this circumstance situation, what would you do? Would you just, hey, all right, I got my little stone, do a little hamster arm toss, hit the dirt? Would you just slowly back away, all right, I'm going to go? Would you pick up the rock and whale it because you don't want to get judged by other people? Because certainly, what's the fear if you go, hey guys, I don't think this is a good idea? Then they very well may stone you. And it's very ambiguous, but there certainly seems to be the possibility that Anne might be what? Tessie might be what, so far as her being the chosen one. It could be a fix. We don't know for sure, but it's possible that it could be a fix. Any support as to why it might be a fix? And again, these might be some details you didn't think about necessarily. Yep, she shows up late.
I just have a question. How was it fixed when it was all pulled out of the a box? Like it wasn't like.
Well, let's go through why it may be, and then we'll take care of it. And I mean, David, the honest answer is going to be we never exactly know. I mean, it could be that, hey, we just kind of slide this one thing in, or that, hey, maybe once the Hutchinsons get picked, then we're going to make sure that she ultimately gets selected. It's very ambiguous, vague. It may or may not be. This could be conspiracy theory. But in theory, it's a lottery, so it's all going to be, by chance. And I think that was confusing to some folks. The first part is the family gets chosen. So you have generally who represents the family?
The father.
The father tends to do it. Now, he's got a broken leg, so, mom will do it or son will do it. I think it is the Watsons. Watson, they're calling out names. I'm on page 4, about halfway down. Watson, the tall boy, came awkwardly through the crowd. Someone said, "Don't be nervous, Jack," said and Mr. Summers said, "Take your time, son." What would the assumption be as to why Watson, the son, has to pick it up? Dad's not a broken leg. Dad was probably, the winner at some point. So the family would get picked, and then from the family, there's 5 Hutchinsons, there's the 2 parents and then 3 kids. Then from those 5, the person gets selected. So that's why they kind of go through it again. So
I was gonna say when they say the crowd parted when she was trying to get up there to the front, so that's kind of unlikely an idea maybe they were doing something there was a reason for that.
Okay, just like the overall crowd reaction / expectation. Maddie, do
They said that they had someone pick for
they had someone pick?
for a little date.
Okay.
Alright,
And Dan,
so,
I'll come to you next.
it's kind of weird how Tessie seems to be the one that freaks out the most when the Hutchinsons are picked.
Uh-huh.
She's freaking out even before. I think she's trying to find where the spot was, but
Pretty much
page 4 is where
page 4, yeah. People began to look around to see the Hutchinsons. Bill Hutchinson was standing quiet, staring down at the paper in his hand. Suddenly, Tessie shouted to Mr. Summers, "You didn't give him time enough to take any paper he wanted. I saw you. It wasn't fair." So even before she's been selected, she is absolutely the most vocal. And of course, she starts bringing out, the whole idea about it not being fair. Dan?
Was it Mr. Summers put the marks on the paper and the box?
Yeah. So like this, and again, that doesn't mean we know how all that paper, again, if it is affixed, we don't even know that it is. But there could be some ways in which maybe it gets taken care of. Basically, you would say that you have Summers is the guy who handles it. And then what other figure, I guess, kind of has a big personality, driving force behind this whole thing? Old man. Warner, 77 years been doing this, never been picked once. Them crazy young kids want to get rid of this stuff. Place is going to go, to hell in a handbasket should we ever get rid of this. So you certainly do have Summers and some other people who are the chosen few, so to speak. And Chris, you mentioning about her getting vocal, her husband's reaction.
Shut up.
"Be a good sport, Tessie," Mrs. Delacroix called, and Mrs. Graves said, "All of us took the same chance." "Shut up, Tessie," Bill Hutchinson said, not going that he therefore wants her to meet her demise, but there's not any support, for anyone with it. So part of it, if you do think there could be a fix in, there certainly is support for it, where in this case, there's a little bit of irony, because then it's therefore not really a lottery, but it's almost a facade, to kind of get rid of people that you may or may not want around.
I just feel like they argue, because I would argue too if my family got picked, because I don't want anybody to be son that's in my family. So I just feel like she wouldn't have argued if it was someone else.
If like a different family got picked?
Yeah, like
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and you'd be curious to see what her reaction, like,
slow this down and just walk away.
those Martins, thank goodness, never liked them anyway. You're right in that, you know,
I
okay,
think though, when most people do that, if they're born like in that tradition.
if the Howards get picked, if the Pierces get picked, we would expect that, okay, that even if you've been in the tradition, there may be some folks who are going to be upset. I think it's funny, not funny. Okay, I think it's funny that she's the only one who seems to complain about it. It's not fair. Shut up. You know, we're going to go through this as if maybe they already, know that she is going to be the one who's selected or not. And again, we don't know.
Also, they could have been saying like shut up because they don't want to have to do like a redraw on their families,
Yeah.
possibly.
Sure, like the wreaths, like keep this quiet. That we're off the hook. We don't have to worry about it. Yeah, just get it over with. No problem. And Chris, I don't remember if it was you that maybe mentioned this or someone else. Where what's going on at that time period in 1948 as to why she might be doing this? They'll mention that there are a fair amount of what kind of governments either slowly have come to an end or starting to pop up. We do have dictatorships. And what do people do within a dictatorship, bless you? And again, for safety, certainly can understand it. You will have unfair treatment, an unruly fist, kind of controlling the land. And you might realize that it is not fair, that it is not right, but why don't people always speak up against such leadership? Judgment of what's going to happen. If you're the dictator and I go, I don't think this is fair, I'm going to be afraid that, yeah, you could judge me and therefore take me out, eliminate.
I was gonna say rule by fear.
Sure. And it's not, it seems that it would be a normal town, most of the time. It's this June 27th thing, as to when it occurs. It's just this one time. So it's not a sustained fear all the time, but it's just this one time where, yeah, you have, that 12-hour period or that 24-hour period where things can happen, and then we go back. I don't know if she knew this in advance. I assume they did. The date of it is, the 27th when it occurs. It gets published on the 27th. So on June 27th, 1948, the thing comes out. If you're reading it that day, that would be the day that the lottery would be taking place. So even kind of add to that present day quality. I didn't realize that before that they were the same, but that would probably still go with that time period.
I didn't like how everyone was almost excited to get the stones. The one girl rushed to get the biggest stone.
The children assembled first, of course. Bobby Martins, starts getting all the stones. Harry Jones is there, and all those folks. And you don't notice that for obviously what's going to go on in it. But when it's all said and done, you go back to that second paragraph. The children assembled first, of course. As if they want to see this happen. It's going to be exciting. They know what's going to happen. Whether it be looking through the document itself or just off the top of your head, what do you remember for last names, like of people within? So, for example, we already listed Summers. Mentioned Old Man Warner. We know we have the Hutchinsons. Remember any other last names that take part? Dunbar. Tamara? Yeah. What's the comment about the name? Because the pronunciation would be, if you go, it's ethnicity would be. It would be French, and the pronunciation would be Delacroix, and then it has changed to Delacroix or Brian, how did you say it? Delacroix. But the name itself in paragraph 2, the villagers pronounced this name Delacroix, eventually made a great pile of stone. So you have this pronunciation of it, but it has kind of been changed, altered a little bit. Anyone, actually I had to put an extra L in there. Anyone know what the French meaning of Delacroix would be? D-E space L-A space C-R-O-I-X. Again, extra L that I inserted in there. D-E is of the. If it's a Mr. Kane story, there has to be a religious allusion somewhere in it. Come on, David, Chris, and Megan, Brooklyn, Emily,
Cross.
Cross. Who else? Other names.
Graves.
Graves. Gotta have Graves. Tom?
Bentham.
Jeremy Bentham is a English philosopher who argued that you should do whatever makes the most people happy. They want to throw stones? Throw stones. Now, he does argue that you can't do anything that causes pain to somebody else, so this technically does go against it.
Percy.
Percy. There's like Anderson, Adams. I don't remember the last name. There are a lot of names. That would be a good quiz. List all the names. You got the Zaninis, Watson, and there's certainly more we could go on. Anderson, Bentham, Allen, Clark, Harbert, Hutchinson, Jones, Overdyke, Percy, Watson, Zanini. With the names, you see anything? I mean, we already mentioned we got the Delacroix, of the cross for French. Hutchinson, mentioned Anne, told you about Jeremy Bentham. Any other names kind of jump out?
Graves and the people.
You're all going to go there sooner or later. Mentioned French with Delacroix. Zanini, we would say probably. Yeah, seems kind of Italian. Any others that you would put with certain ethnicities? Watson. That's elementary, my dear Watson. What I notice is you have a variety of ethnicities. It's not like it's one culture. It's not like it is one group. They're not all Russian names. They're not all German names. Like if this was all German names, people could be going, this is about Hitler. If it was all Russian names, this is just, an allegory for what's going on within Russia. But you have a variety of names with it. So it's not that there's really one culture that would be responsible for this, but it ends up kind of being representative of everyone. Certainly Graves is a nice one to have. When this is taking place, you have Adams and Graves are standing next to each other, kind of watching it unfold. Adams is the first name called. Where is everyone ultimately going to end up at some point? Standing right there next to Mrs. Graves. It's the end that's going to occur for everyone, whether you're Tessie Hutchinson this time or a Delacroix or whatnot. Of the cross, what has happened to the pronunciation of that name? It has been altered. It has been changed. You could use, a strong word like it's been perverted. What has happened to the morals of the whole entire town if you're going to have this lottery take place? They have been altered. They have been changed. They have been perverted. The funny little chuckle thing I also get would be towards the end. I'm on page number 6. This is like the fourth paragraph from the bottom. Although the villagers had forgotten the ritual and lost the original black box, they still remembered to use stones. The pile of stones the boys had made earlier was ready. There were stones on the ground with the blowing scraps of paper that had come out of the box, and Delacroix selected a stone so large she had to pick it up with both hands and turned to Mrs. Dunbar. "Come on," she said, "hurry up." So the one that does kind of have like this religious connotation to it, she's the one who picks up the biggest, the biggest, the heaviest, the largest. "Come on, Dunbar, let's go!" In time to nail the person. So certainly say there is some commentary that would be taking place with it that 1948, after World War II, Cold War starting up, and certainly these would be arguments that pop up with all generations that maybe, culture has kind of lost its way, that people are headed down the wrong path. And I'm sure you would kind of find similar tales that would be happening, in today's world in 2016. But the complaint was, we don't want a story about this. We want something that's going to be a little bit more cheery, a little bit more uplifting. But she thought that this was maybe that road that humanity was headed down. So that leads into the follow-up question: why don't we complain? And certainly Michaela kind of made reference to, it could be fear. You don't want to be judged. And this can be based on the story itself, or in general, why don't we complain? Or do you feel we complain too much at this point?
I personally thought it was a weak argument because I feel like people, especially in the situations he brought up, feel more entitled to complain because they're paying for that train ticket, so they want good service. They're paying for the movies, they want good service. They're going to say something, and that's not happening. So I thought it was a weak argument.
Okay. Where does he ultimately go with this? Like, what is his main issue that if we don't complain, what's going to happen to folks? In a way, like not knowingly, but if you never complain, essentially you end up not caring, and so now you have an apathy that takes place. And he ends up kind of tying this in with politics, by the end, where if you don't care about the train, if you don't care about the movie theater, if you don't care about the stewardess not taking the tray back so you can start working on your paper, then you're not going to care who's president, you're going to stop voting. And certainly with, I don't want to just say this year's election, probably happens with any presidential election. What's the main issue is people will go, I'm not going to vote because I don't like either one. And so his fear would be, and Buckley is big time into politics, works with the Republican National Convention in the 60s and 70s. His big concern is that if people don't care, then you'll lose any control, any side of the country in general. I would say, though, you're right. Anytime money's involved, people will start to kind of complain a little bit more. And in today's world, it might be easier to complain. David, you go to Cheesecake Factory, you have poor service. Maybe you don't want to deal with the manager or the waiter or waitress at the time. What could he very well do that will still get his opinion heard after the fact? Yeah, could not tip. Might do the penny tip. Might put the penny in the glass of water, flip the water over onto the table, and pull out and then you really are having an issue. I was thinking something else though, outside of the restaurant itself. Yeah, go to Yelp, Urban Spoon, just go on to Twitter. Don't go to Cheesecake Factory. Don't have Lindsay as your waitress. Ask for someone else, if you see this woman, girl, whatever the case may be. So there's still maybe an easier way to complain when it comes to social media. Even if that complaint might not be, necessarily person to person, that still does occur. Should we complain more? Do we complain too much? Would anyone say there's any arenas or areas of life where we do complain too much?
Yes, McDonald's. I work there and they complain all the time for stupid reasons.
Customers
We're on
or
the way. It's supposed to be fast food, but we have to make your burger. So can you pull up to the first reserve, please? Thank you. End of story. You know what I'm talking about, Cammy. I'm serious.
so you're talking customers,
Yeah.
not the employers or managers or anything like that.
Don't go to McDonald's anymore. Just don't come.
Well, then you don't have a job.
No, but if the one person doesn't I don't like when the same lady that comes every day complains about the same thing. I don't care. I'll get another job. You don't have to come here.
I get frustrated when people complain about roles that were already made.
Rules or roles?
Roles.
Yes.
UL.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I just remember on my one job, people would yell at me for something I didn't create the roles. I'm just enforcing them.
Okay.
Did the right card thing.
Um,
You mean just athlete? About the call? Why'd you do that play?
Probably definitely racist parents.
It's like third grade soccer.
Addie's baseball season is about to start up in a couple weeks. Guess what that job means for me? Probably.
Good luck.
Do you get paid?
No.
And what do you
It's the next year. Volunteer because you need someone to do it. Who complains the most? It was the opposing coach last time for the Red Sox. Hey, I was fair, consistent, kept it, and I do a wide strike zone, I admit it, makes the game move a little bit faster. Otherwise, we'd be there the whole time. But sure, yeah, there'd be complaints and all that kind of stuff happening all the time. A lot of times when you do have complaints, and I'm drawing this to a quick close because the bell's going to ring in a little bit, and this is important to keep in mind when it comes to argument. You had to make a list on your sheet, and this was certainly something that came up within the lottery about values. You want to make sure, if I can spell values, you want to make sure that you are aware of the types of values that take place into this, how arguments would happen. Take, for example, not as big of an argument anymore, but with the heat, we've certainly been noticing heat and humidity. What issue starts to come to the forefront again? Global warming, air conditioning, things like that. Those who argue global warming is happening, what is their main concern? I mean, you could argue melting of polar caps, water levels increasing and things like that. If you're really worried about global warming, you're worried about the extinction of life. Those not worried about it, it's convenient. And so those are two very different values that end up being in conflict with one another. Good news. Over the last 30 years, the warm to life coast has increased. It has increased based on construction that has taken place. There's like a net gain.
That's where people are like, is that because Abu Dhabi are making islands?
Well, or like adding on like Dubai, Hong Kong.
Well, that's
If you look at satellite images of, I think it was 1980 versus today or
so like
something like
it's
that.
increasing or is it decreasing?
East Coast,
Or is it increasing for making the beaches bigger?
it was increasing because of.
Hey,
Hey,
that's not good.
I don't remember how much the U.S. was involved with it, but it was a lot of like Singapore, Dubai.
That always frustrates me because now they're taking the environment, the environment away from the ocean floor and bringing it up onto the beaches.
Oh, well, they build it up, and meanwhile the ocean water's rising, so it just gets torn away anyways.
It just takes longer.
There was a beach made. My uncle has a beach house in Winter Park, Rhode Island, and where he was, it was just like you